What is up, you guys? I'm charmx. Today I'm going to be reacting to Film Theory, Willy Wonka and the Golden Ticket Scam, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory by the Film Theorist. Now, I'm really intrigued by this title. What do you mean, Golden Ticket Scam? I mean, the odds of you getting a golden ticket, you know, are very low. And it's a great freaking business decision because it gets people to buy your product. But how is it a scam? I mean, there were winners. So, obviously, it's not a scam. I'm very intrigued by this title, shall we say. Anyway, with that being said, hopefully Matt has a lot of proof to back up this claim that it's a scam and my life is a lie. But with that being said, the original link's in the description. Make sure you guys go subscribe to the Film Theorist. Without any further ado, let's begin. Oh, this is the one with
this episode of
This is the one with Gene Wilder. I love Gene Wilder. Rest in peace. I think he passed away last year.
Film Theory is not safe for work. Oh wait, you thought I meant it was full of naked people or violence or heavy swearing, right? No,
Yeah!
no. I mean, today we're talking about Willy Wonka and his chocolate factory. And no, when I say chocolate factory, that's not meant to be some kind of weird innuendo. Get your minds out of the gutter, people.
Mine wasn't. Cause I know what Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is. Now that you've said that, now you make me think of that. That's a cool effect.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, your golden ticket to a ruined childhood. Today's video hits really close to home for me because we're talking about one of my all-time favorite childhood films, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Sure, as a kid, I thought Wonka's factory was the most fanciful, fantastic place to visit ever. I mean, there are mushrooms where you can scoop out whipped cream and eat it in the main building. Knock down some of the candies from that tree, nom nom nom. But now that I'm an adult and have people who work for me, I see it as the horrendously unsafe sweatshop that it is. So unsafe, in fact, that it would be literally illegal to produce a single bar of chocolate out of there. So get ready to melt down those childhood
Not if you're in a different country other than North America.
dreams and send them down the chocolatey river of disappointment, because not only does Mr. William Wonka have one of the most illegal factories on the entire planet, but what's worse, I can prove to you that he actually knows it.
Oh, that's a creepy smile effect, because that made it actually look like he was smiling. Normally when Matt does the smile effect, he makes him like way too exaggerated.
No earthly way of knowing.
Oh, yes there is, Wonka. You've been pulling the wool over our eyes for far too long, my friend, and today I'm exposing the grand conspiracy of your golden ticket giveaway like the nougaty inside of a scrumdiddlyumptious bar. So, loyal theorists, get ready to come with me, and you'll be in a world of OSHA violations. In case you're not up to speed with the super saccharine sweatshop that is Wonka's Chocolate Factory, here's the quick rundown. Eccentric candy maker genius Willy Wonka runs a chocolate factory with SpaceX levels of security.
Nobody ever goes in. Nobody ever comes out.
To protect his candy-making secrets from his sticky-fingered competitors who, for some—
Oh yeah! I actually forgot. I actually heard that the midgets or what are they called in the Willy Wonka, like the little people that work there? Either way, I remember hearing a story. I don't know if it's from actually Willy Wonka itself or from something else, that they're from, like, I don't know, they're from somewhere, and Willy Wonka, you know, pays them to work there by feeding them candy or something like that, and that they don't actually want to work there or something like that. I don't know, there's some like dark thing about the employees there. But, I mean, we also have to remember that this was, you know, it was in a different time where labor laws and that weren't as strict as they are now.
reason can't seem to figure out that all you need to do is mix cocoa powder together with butter, sugar, and vanilla. I mean, seriously, Slugworth, there just aren't that many ingredients in chocolate. Maybe
that's how you make
sprinkle
chocolate?
in some nuts or toffee if you're feeling dangerous. In both versions of the movie, the modern Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, as well as the vastly superior original version, Willy Wonka.
Yeah, the original one's better. Maybe not in looks, because, like, sure, the new one with, what's the guy who played Pirates of the Caribbean? Freaking whatever his name is. The new one, it looks better. It looks more realistic, I guess. But the old one has that old, that charm that was in those kind of older movies. As well as the fact that I love Gene Wilder, and the music, I think, is better in it.
Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, which is the one I'm going to be focused on for this theory, Wonka opens his doors up to 5 lucky kids who've begged, borrowed, and stolen to get their hands on one of his 5 golden tickets. As they tour the factory, we as the movie-going audience get a first-hand look at the unbelievable wonders and hazards that Wonka has littered everywhere. And these aren't just some little issues that make life around the factory inconvenient. These are occupational safety and health administration violations,
But back then, when, you know, this movie was supposed to take place, were these kind of laws and whatnot in practice? Because maybe they are hazards nowadays, but way back in the day, maybe it was just, you know, a thing that happened or whatever. Maybe it was allowed.
OSHA violations. They're illegal, they're life-threatening, and they are everywhere. And here's the interesting thing about OSHA violations. They don't just come with a little finger wag and a couple of demerits on your business owner report card. They come with fines. Huge fines. And enough of them will totally be able to shut down your business for good. So let's figure out how big of a legal tab that Willy Wonka has racked up for himself.
The suspense is terrible.
He's gonna go this time.
I hope it'll last.
The first violation seems pretty small, but it'll give you a sense of what real-world business owners face when they're trying to create a safe work environment for their employees. See if you can spot it in this clip.
Better press on.
Hey, the room is getting smaller.
No, it's not. He's getting bigger.
Did you catch that one?
Inside.
The small rooms, I guess. I don't know. I guess if you have claustrophobia, it wouldn't be good.
This room, all of my dreams become realities.
You know what else is going to become a reality for you? A big whopping fine. Code of Regulations 29, Part 1910, Subpart E, Point 37I. OSHA says that all ceilings must be 7 foot 6 inches or higher.
1910s, was that when this law was put in? If so, it looks like Willy Wonka is in a Willy bit of trouble.
This is specifically for fire safety, in the event that the exit needs to be used as an emergency exit. But just think, this is where we are starting. If Wonka is getting a fine for the height of a measly hallway, then you know that old Willy is in for a long night, or a long episode of Film Theory. Next, the chocolate room, the centerpiece of my childhood dreams,
The best
and my
part.
current dreams, and the horrific nightmares of an OSHA agent. In this scene, you'll see that Veruca Salt cuts herself on a rock in the room. Well, it turns out that that was real blood, and that the actress who played her, Julie Dawn Cole, still has a scar from that injury on set, which she got from one of the jagged rocks that were used as props in the set.
That's real? Oh my. So it wasn't actually chocolate? No, but seriously, I did not expect that. So this actually goes further than just Willy Wonka. It goes over to the studio that made it.
A workplace injury in the movies, as well as a workplace injury in the factory. That's fine number 2. There are a few other pedantic things in here to find, including the stairs that Oompa Loompas walk down. Those are under the 22-inch minimum width required by building codes, and they don't have a vertical banister. So that's fines number 3 and 4. But okay, I hear ya. A little cut, a little banister, a little hallway, come on! That sort of stuff could be fixed in a day, so who cares? Well, first off, who should care is the business owner, because all those things may be little to you, but they result in big fines. Thousands of dollars for small infractions like that, and we're only just beginning.
So, although, you know, it's obvious that, you know, Willy Wonka's factory is a hazardous nightmare, how does this get into the fact that this is a scam? How does it get into a scam, right? Because, sure, not safe to work there, not safe to visit, but the actual golden tickets are not a scam because they were sent out and there were winners, so it's not a scam. It's just a really unsafe place you don't want to go, but it ain't a friggin' scam. That's what I'm getting from this so far. I mean, are we gonna talk about the scam part?
Let's get to the big ones, like the chocolate river. First, you have food running through an open-air factory. That is a huge strike there. The workers around it also aren't wearing any protective or sterile clothing, and literally anyone who touches the chocolate contaminates the entire supply, as Augustus so kindly demonstrates for us.
Don't do that, you're contaminating my entire river.
Contaminating the entire river, Wonka says, as he doesn't shut his factory down to clean out the sweaty child floating in the chocolate. So here we have no guardrails, no protective clothing, working with contaminated food and failing to clean up those contaminations. All of these are OSHA violations for basic safety, with the contamination issue getting some nice extra scrutiny from the Food and Drug Administration. And as a fun fact, if Augustus's germ-ridden body did in fact make someone sick from a chocolate bar on the other end, Wonka would be responsible for fines of around $350,000 at the time of the movie release, or about $1.5 million in today's terms per.
$350,000 at the time of the movie release. When was this released? Or when was... Okay, let me look this up. When was Willy Wonka supposed to take place? Alright, so I've done some research. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the one we hear with Gene Wilder, it came out and, like, why... Look at my computer, why is it thinking? Is it glitching out? Either way, the actual movie, it was released in 1971. So right there, you'd think, you know, okay, so this whole thing's supposed to take place in 1971. Or at least that's from what I get. But the actual book for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was released in 1964. So it takes us back to the 60s. But the way they're dressed and everything, it still makes me think it's back in like the 1930s. Alright, so I did some more research, and I'm right. It's supposed to take place in the 1920s. Now the question is, what kind of codes and labor regulations and all that did they have in place then?
Per person made sick. Since we have no way of knowing the fallout from Augustus's chocolate dip, we can't really count these, but they would literally be enough to put the factory out of business if they happen to ship those contaminated chocolate bars out. That being said, we're still not done with the violations that we can count in this room, which include the fact that once someone actually falls into the chocolate river, they get suctioned up into a huge unfiltered pipe.
She's had it now, the suction's got it.
Leading to them possibly drowning and suffocating. And if you survive all of that, there's still a good chance that you get boiled alive.
Look sharp, or her little boy's liable to get poured into the boiler.
So strike for the unfiltered pipe, and additional strike for no safety protocol. Moving further into the movie, we survive a traumatizing boat ride, which is shockingly one of the safest things in this entire movie. This is somehow actually okay. But don't worry, we're about to hit Wonka's secret inventing room, the place where candy and lawsuits get made. First of all those steaming vats are violations of OSHA's rules around hot pipes in the workplace. Reference number 1910.261 subpoint K11, quote, all exposed steam and hot water pipes within 7 feet of the floor shall be covered with an insulating material, or guarded. And you guessed it, each vat or pipe counts as a separate violation. So, let's see here. We have 8 of...
But when was that rule put into play? And way back then, you know, they didn't particularly care about safety in the workplace.
Those. Oh, and no guardrails again. You think you're slick, Willy? This is just laziness. Oh, and there are live bees in this room. So, yeah, that counts too. And last up, there also seems to be a complete lack of safety equipment anywhere. Unless, of course, you count the Oompa Loompa fabric Mickey Mouse-style gloves.
Shouldn't you be wearing rubber gloves? You'll have the health inspectors after you know that, don't you?
Right you are, Mr. Salt. You would have made a good film theorist. OSHA Code 1910.132A requires that, quote, protective equipment, including personal protective equipment for eyes, face, head, and extremities, is provided, used, and maintained in any situation involving food or chemicals. And we know plenty of chemicals being used in this room are, well, to put it lightly, hazardous.
Violet, you're turning violet, Violet!
The next workplace hazard is in the fizzy lifting drink room, where Charlie and Grandpa Joe float away and almost get themselves chopped to bits by the fan blades at the top of the room.
Stay away from Charlie, it'll chop us to bits!
Like, he just...
I'm surprised Willy didn't, think of that beforehand. Like, it just seems like a really dangerous idea to put that there.
Now, here's the thing. A fan at the top of a room this tall isn't a violation, but OSHA would still be able to book Wonka for negligence in making the room with the deadly ceiling the same room with the soda that makes you float. If you read the book the movie's based on, Wonka even mentions that a few Oompa Loompas that they didn't tie down floated off into the blue, but we're just gonna let those slide because we're focused on the on-screen versions. But still, you're an awful person, Willy Wonka. Moving right along, we get to see Veruca's shining moment with the golden geese, where she racks up a jackpot of fines. You see all those boxes crashing down on the Oompa Loompas? Well, that's right. OSHA has regulations against stacking boxes too high. In fact, anything stacked over 5 feet has to be secured so it doesn't fall over, like you see right here in this scene. So we get ourselves a strike for every single tall stack that you see in the room. Conservatively, I'm gonna say that's about 13. Then, of course, we have the famous moment where Veruca stands on the egg decatur and falls down the garbage chute into the furnace.
I want it now!
Yep, that's another hand.
Man, it's been so long since I watched this movie. I forget a lot of things that happen in it. I think I'm more familiar with the newer version, which I don't like that one because the way Johnny Depp, that's the actor in it. The way Johnny Depp looks at it is just so bizarre. But yeah, I prefer this one more because of Gene Wilder. But I remember more of the newer one.
Handful of safety violations, no guardrails, an open chute down into the furnace, and again, a violation for each egg decatur, so that's at least 4 separate strikes right there. But hey, now we're down to just 2 kids, so how many violations could be left in this movie, right? Oh, so many. Let's start with what happens when you cover people in soap and send them through a car wash. Exposing people to chemicals, including most soaps like dishwashing detergents, is an OSHA violation in the highest amount.
Oh, that's a cool
And they're
effect.
also on a moving vehicle with no seatbelts, so that's a strike for everyone. Also, as a fun side note, these violations actually also happened in real life during the shooting of this very scene where they covered everyone in soap. The entire cast puffed up from all that detergent irritation. It took days of medical treatment for the cast to return to normal and return to set.
Oh, that studio really messed up. Because, you know, that's a problem. And then there's a part earlier where the girl actually, you know, cut her leg or whatever on a rock. Who produced this? Was it Universal? I don't know.
So yeah, there are actually reasons for all these stupid rules being in place. Go figure. Last up on our tour, we start mixing food violations with electricity. What could possibly go wrong there? Well, even though they do have safety equipment and no exposure to chemicals, unfortunately Wonka's still getting himself an infraction for violating the occupational exposure to hazardous chemicals in laboratory standard. Reference 29 CFR 1910.1450, which specifically covers labs where this sort of research and development takes place. Allowing a small boy to be able to operate a massive ray gun with no safety protocol in place, that's a strike. And seriously, Wonka, guard rails. Guard rails are gonna go a long way here. So are we done with this death trap yet? Almost. Even though our tour of the factory ends, we get one more bonus strike thrown in for good measure with our visit to the Great Glass Elevator.
It's an elevator.
It's a Wonka-vator.
This glass elevator thing is weird. It's really weird because I think was it the more modern one where it flies by itself? Because I don't remember if it does on this one, but the modern one, it like flies by itself. I don't know, it's really bizarre. And also, we still haven't talked about how the golden ticket is a scam. Because so far, it's not a scam, it's just dangerous.
Which has nothing to stop it from crashing straight through the glass roof of
See,
the
look,
factory.
it flies by
This one
itself.
is made of glass. It'll shatter in 1,000 pieces. We'll be cut to ribbons.
So let's just slap on an extra violation, or 3, for everyone in that elevator.
Wonka-vator.
And with that, our grand
Wonka
total
Vader.
comes to 60 OSHA violations. And that's just what you can see in the movie. 60 is very...
Alright, I gotta find this out. Aha! I got you, Matt. I got you, Matt. I looked it up. When did OSHA regulations, when were they implemented? 1970s when they were implemented. This entire movie is supposed to be taking place in the 1920s. 1920s, and the book itself was in 1964, so that was still before OSHA was even around. So, by that logic, I think Willy Wonka could probably get off scot-free because this didn't apply. This didn't apply. Freaking got you, Matt.
conservative. Now, like I said at the beginning of this episode, Wonka better be selling the heck out of those chocolate bars because every one of those violations comes with a fine. But now, of course, we come to the real question. How much are those fines gonna cost? Well, according to OSHA, quote, any employer who willfully or repeatedly violates the requirements of this act may be assessed a civil penalty of not more than $70,000 for each violation, but not less than $5,000 for each willful violation, end quote. And it's important to mention that these are the guidelines from 1971 when the original Wonka movie came out and was set.
It came out in the 1970s, yes, but the movie is supposed to be taking place in the 1920s. In the 1920s, like if you just take a look at the way the people are dressed in the movie, it looks like it's from like the 1920s or something. It doesn't look like it's from the 70s.
Today's numbers, that's about $31,000 to $436,000 per individual violation. At lowest, Wonka is looking at a $1.86 million price tag, and at highest,
Wow.
he's shelling out a whopping $26.1 million in today's dollars. Again, just from the 60 OSHA violations that we see in the like 6, 7, 8 rooms that he tours us through. Now, obviously, a range of $5,000 to $70,000 is huge. What determines which end of the spectrum you fall dwell on is your past history and whether it seems like you as a business owner just made a mistake or whether you really don't care about the safety of your workplace. So would OSHA have pity on Willy Wonka? The short answer is definitely not. They factor in things like the seriousness of the violation, which in our case includes violations like child-sized pipes to a boiler room in the furnace, as well as exposing children and workers to chemicals that turn them into blueberries. Also, a small business is likely to get off the hook much easier than a multinational chocolate mega factory. So Wonka has no case to plead here because he ships to literally every continent. We see it in the golden ticket coverage. And when it comes to showing a good faith effort to keep things safe, well, let's just say that Wonka has a bad track record.
These are the only rails in the entire movie right here. Matt's always complaining about the rails. Well, here you are, Matt. Here are your rails. Here you are, Matt.
There too. He's not even good at pretending.
Stop, don't come back.
Help. Police. Murder.
In conclusion, Mr. Wonka, we film theorist OSHA investigators find you guilty on every count. And let's face it, probably dozens more that we don't see in your 90-minute movie. You, sir, are looking squarely in the eye of that $26.1 million fine, or $4.2 million in 1971 terms.
Well, better pack up shop and move to Bermuda? I don't know.
And if you all watching at home right now think that's bad, I'm not even done. You see, the thing about safety inspectors is that they don't just show up once, fine you, and then leave. When you get fined, you're also given an order to fix whatever issues the inspector discovered. When the inspector returns, if they find that you still haven't fixed the problems, then you get fined again. This is called the failure to abate, and that results in its...
Does that work as well with, like, food inspectors? Because I actually had to... Like, I never thought I would have to do this in my life, but I actually had to call a food inspector, like, a month ago. Because, I was with a friend, and my friend ordered Chinese food from some place. And when we walked into this place, it was the sketchiest place I've, like, ever been to. Like, I didn't get anything or anything like that because, well, one, it would have just been a bad idea. Even if I wanted something, it was just a bad idea. If you just looked at how dirty the place was. But my friend ordered food from there. You know, came home, he ate it. And the next day, he's telling me he's all sick and everything. And he didn't want to call anyone over it. And I'm like, you know what? I will. Because that place, like, just looking at it, you don't have to, I didn't have to have the food to know that it's gonna put you in the hospital or whatever, right?
And that results in its own fine. You pay the same fines again for every single day that your factory wasn't in compliance. So 4.2 million inflation-adjusted dollars isn't just a one-time fee, it's how much Mr. Wonka would be paying per day for as long as all those issues go unfixed. That's 182 million inflation-adjusted dollars per week, and $9.5 billion for a year of non-compliance. For comparison, Hershey's current revenues are about $7.421 billion per year, which...
They make that much money selling chocolate? That's crazy.
Would put Willy Wonka's factory in complete bankruptcy in a matter of months. But, and here's the biggest but of them all, my friends, this is no surprise to Willy Wonka. No, in fact, he knows about all these violations better than anyone. You see, the Occupational Safety and Health Act, the legislation that created OSHA in the first place, was passed in 1970. It took effect in 1971, the exact same year that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is set and the year that it hit theaters.
Oh, it's not set in that year, is it? I looked it up, and it said... the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, yes, it was made in that year, and it was released in 1971, the year that all these regulations took place. But when I looked it up, it said that it's supposed to be taking place in the 1920s. That's why they're dressed the way they are. I'm gonna go look it up again. I'm actually really confused, because I just looked it up again. And what I saw was the 1920s, and but that isn't, I don't think that's the actual date that it was supposed to take place. So now, have I been wrong the entire movie? Please no. But the writer of Willy Wonka, what inspired him was like a bunch of chocolate companies from like the 1920s when he was growing up or something like that. So it's inspired from the 1920s. So that could be used in an argument saying that, oh, this is supposed to take place in the 1920s. But I think a more reasonable argument is that it's actually supposed to take place when the book was written. Because that's when the book came out, right? Like the book came out... And, you know, it was supposed to take place around then. And at that time, OSHA didn't exist. or whatever it's called.
With the establishment of OSHA laws in 1970, Willy Wonka realized pretty fast that his factory wasn't long for this world given the way he runs it and how dangerous it is to everyone inside. So Wonka's decision to open his factory to 5 lucky children, a decision that seems to come out of nowhere in the movie,
Willy Wonka's opening his factory. He's gonna let people in.
You sure?
isn't actually motivated by a desire to do good or even pass his love of chocolate and candy making secrets on like a legacy. No, it's to offload this dumpster fire of a business onto one poor, vulnerable, unsuspecting child before Wonka himself is hit with all these fines.
Oh, that's right. He does give it away or something. Oh man, a lot of plot twists are going on in this. And that would kind of make the golden ticket a scam. That would make it a scam because, you know, you go in there expecting for a tour and you end up getting possession of this factory, which is about to be hit with a bunch of fines. So that's another good argument. But I also still think the idea that the book's supposed to take place in 1964, right? And if it's supposed to take place in 1964, when it was written, you know, the author had no idea of OSHA because it didn't exist.
To find a child.
Charlie, who comes out of destitution and thinks he's hit the lottery with his golden ticket, believes he's inheriting Wonka's fortune. But the truth is that he's actually inheriting Willy Wonka's massive legal trouble and billions of dollars of debt. He's not the most pure of heart or the nicest or whatever. He's just the biggest chump and the child in the most desperate situation that Wonka can prey on to escape OSHA and a lifetime of corporate debt. But hey, that's just a theory.
That's a crazy video, and I would say that Matt is probably like 100% right. But why I think he's wrong is that the book was written in 1964, and the OSHA didn't exist at that time. So the author couldn't have written the book with this crazy evil plot in mind because OSHA didn't exist. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this video. Let me know what you think. I know this is a very long video, but I hope you liked it. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, possibly share with a friend if you're new, and subscribe to join the family. Also, make sure you guys go subscribe to the Film Theorist. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next time.